gunshots heard outdoors, and that is something that happens a lot because there's still a lot of mistrust among the people. There is fear of infiltration of Gaddafi loyalists who would go after whoever is demonstrating or trying to take their pictures for maybe further repercussion later when things get either in some way solved. Now they do say that they call the area now a liberated area. They're trying to keep security very tight, but they understand that it is very possible that the words of Gaddafi come true, and it's very possible that he will be carrying out a counter-offensive.
Yeah, when you say that they fear that there could be some kind of counter-offensive, are they expecting some kind of military offensive? And if they are expecting an onslaught from pro-Gaddafi forces, how are they preparing to meet that?
Well, they do feel strong because the military that is based here in the east basically has deserted the government in Tripoli. Day after day, you see military commanders announcing that they are now part of the people, that they will not shoot at the people here, and actually they will help the people fight any counter-offensive if it would happen. So they feel strong about that. There's also, I have to say, a lot of weapons in the hands of civilians at the moment because all the barracks have been overrun and the weapon caches have been overrun, and they have taken a lot of that. Now the military, the deserting military as I would describe it, is trying to get hold of that weapons, trying to make sure that the streets don't turn into anarchy with all these weapons in the hands of civilians. So they are calling on the people to really give back everything and to give or hand over really the defense of the east, or the defense of the liberated area as they call it, to the military, to the armed forces that are based here, and to the security forces that are based here.
Now, the people who are crossing the border, those refugees that you were talking about just a moment ago, which part of Libya are they from?
Well, most of the refugees who are crossing into Egypt are mostly Egyptians. They were basically based here in the east of the country, at least those I have met. They were telling me that it's been very, very difficult for them to make their way through the border. And you have to bear in mind that I think about 40,000 of them have crossed. That is really very little out of an estimated 1.2 million Egyptians living in Libya and working here. So they're still trying, and I think that probably gives you the idea of how difficult it is for people to get out of the country. The airport in Benghazi has been bombed, so that is not an airport that can be used anymore. So really, if they want to make their way to safety, they have to take the roads. And they say that the roads are quite dangerous because they do say that sometimes you have checkpoints with Gaddafi loyalists who are very intimidating.
Okay, that's our correspondent reporting to us there from the eastern border of Libya, updating us on the latest there. Now, the Libyan ambassador to the United Nations has spoken out in defense of pro-democracy demonstrators. He said the crackdown had to stop.
They are asking for democracy, they are asking for progress, they are asking for freedom, they are asking for their rights. They demonstrated peacefully, they didn't throw a single stone. They were killed. What did Brother Muammar Gaddafi say? He said that these people use these hallucination tablets. 10,000, tens of thousands would need mountains of these pills to lose their brains and minds and act. 1 million turned out in Benghazi yesterday. The Green Mountain.
Right, let's go now to the United Nations. The Secretary General Ban Ki-moon is addressing reporters. Let's listen in.
Moment. The Libyan ambassador delivered an impassioned plea for our help. My message to the Security Council was simple and direct. Now is the time for decisive action. This is an historic turning point, and the international community must rise to the occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, the situation remains exceedingly grave. Today we have received further reports of violent clashes with high casualties. We have also further reports of gross and systemic violation of human rights. These include indiscriminate killings, arbitrary arrests, shootings of peaceful demonstrators. The detention and torture of the opposition and the use of the foreign mercenaries, dangerous impediments to medical treatment and access of humanitarian workers. Let me also note that we are experiencing a growing crisis of refugees and displaced persons. UNHCR reports that some 22,000 people have fled to Tunisia. Another 15,000 have gone to Egypt. However, they fear that much larger numbers of residents and immigrant workers are trapped and unable to leave for safety. Many of those crossing the border have told the UN staff that the journey was terrifying. It is crucial that humanitarian agencies have access to the border regions. It is also important that neighboring states, including Europe, keep their borders open to people fleeing Libya. We expect the situation to worsen. The World Food Programme warns that Libya's food supplies are running dangerously low. In my conversations with leaders of the region and the world, and in my public and private statement, I have spoken out bluntly and repeatedly. The violence must stop. Those responsible for so brutally shedding the blood of innocents must be punished. Fundamental human rights must be respected. The challenge for us now is to protect Libyan civilians and do all we can to halt the ongoing violence. That is why I urge the Security Council to consider the wide range of options for action. Those include proposals for trade and financial sanctions, including targeted measures against the leadership, such as a ban on travel and the freezing of financial assets. Some member states call for an arms embargo. Others draw our attention to the clear and egregious violations of human rights taking place in Libya and urge the Security Council to take effective action to ensure real accountability. I urge the Council to consider concrete action. In this context, I welcome the resolution adopted today by the Human Rights Council to establish an independent international mission of inquiry, and I pledge my full support. It also recommended that Libya be suspended from the Human Rights Council. As you know, that would require a 2/3 majority vote of the General Assembly. The President of the General Assembly has informed me that this matter will be taken up early next week. I also welcome the measures just announced by the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, I will continue to engage world and regional leaders on this issue. On Monday, I'll travel to Washington to discuss these and other matters with the US President Obama. Let me conclude by saying that whatever the Security Council and General Assembly and world leaders may decide, we must be mindful of the urgency of the moment. In these circumstances, the loss of time means more loss of lives. This is a time to act. Thank you very much.
Mr. Secretary General, you talked to Mr. Gaddafi, and apparently it didn't have any particular effect. Do you plan to try to talk to him again and deliver your message to him directly again?
I'm not sure whether, after having spoken extensively with Colonel Gaddafi, whether he will heed to the calls of international community. Of course, whenever it is necessary, I'm willing to do anything to protect the population, civilian population, and to stop the violence. But he has been trying to justify and defending his position. I have been trying to talk to all the leaders in the region. Yeah, I'll continue to do that. Yeah.
Next question. Mr. Secretary General, you said that this is an urgent time. Loss of time is loss of life. And the draft resolution details embargoes, sanctions, freezing accounts. Is that enough to stop the violence now? As you said, it's an urgent time. Is that enough to stop it now? Should there be military intervention?
I have urged the Security Council to take a wide range of options. I understand that the Security Council is very seriously considering all possible options, but that is up to the member states of the Security Council to determine what course of action should be taken at this time.
Okay, last question, Tala.
Mr. Secretary General, you stressed the importance of accountability. Now, we understand there is one member of the P5 is against it. Another member did not receive, from the P5, did not receive instructions. How important is to refer this to the ICC and hold people responsible for the killings in Libya accountable?
In principle, whoever commits crimes of such a scale then must be held accountable. And I believe that the member state of the Security Council will consider all possible means, and I have urged the members of the Council to consider a wide range of options. Thank you very much.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Secretary General, can you tell us?
That's the United Nations Secretary General there, Ban Ki-moon, addressing reporters in New York at UN headquarters, saying that the crisis in Libya has reached a decisive turning point, saying that the situation is extremely grave, exceedingly grave were his words. He said that there are reports of more clashes and more casualties, and that there had been indiscriminate killings and shooting of peaceful demonstrators. Now, for reaction from the United States, let's cross now to Jane Dutton at our Washington News Center. Jane?
Thanks for that, Anand. Yes, Ban Ki-moon is also heading to Washington on Monday to discuss the Libyan situation with President Barack Obama. AlJazeera's Kristen Salumi joins me live from the United Nations. She's been listening in. He said that decisive action needs to be taken. When he was asked if this means military action, he sort of skirted around the issue. What do you think he was calling for there?
Well, he said he was calling for for the Security Council to take action urgently in terms of sanctions and also in terms of protective